Listen, I just remembered the first time I went to a live Jordan Peterson lecture. This guy in the audience asked a question that just floored me. He asked, "My sensitivity turns my life into a torture. Is feeling everything so acutely a blessing or a curse?" I remember thinking, whoa, buddy, you need to start your own podcast. That question is spot on. Peterson went silent, thought for a moment, and then said, "The way out isn't to run away, but to dive deeper. You need to absorb even more of the poison that's toxic to you. Absorb it until you turn it into a medicine that protects both you and the world around you." Honestly, it was powerful. Well, that's classic Peterson, harsh and direct. I agree, pure existentialism. Now, there was one moment that initially caused some internal pushback. It's one thing to talk about self-reliance, but it's another to claim that a man must be dangerous. Admit it, the word danger immediately brings to mind threats, aggression, and a readiness to throw punches. But isn't that what he meant? That's the catch. No. The point isn't to pick a fight. The point is to have that power within you, but keep it under control. Do you understand? If you don't have a force that people must reckon with, then your calmness isn't a virtue. It's just a lack of options. Where is the honor in being non-violent if you are physically incapable of violence? It's like martial arts. Masters spend years turning themselves into effective weapons. Not so they can go around beating everyone up, but so they have the option to never use that weapon. True integrity is born right there, at the intersection of immense power and iron discipline. People often confuse weakness with kindness. They say, "I don't hurt anyone, therefore I'm a good person." No, buddy, you're just harmless. And harmless means weak. To be truly good, you need to have teeth and claws and immense inner strength, but consciously choose the path of peace. Listen, you can even see this in fairy tales, right? Exactly. Take Beauty and the Beast. Why isn't Beauty attracted to ordinary, boring guys? Her heart yearns for the Beast. But the secret isn't that she needs a monster. She needs someone who has managed to tame his ferocity and direct it toward protecting his family, toward creation. That is the ideal. And the whole world order actually rests on this. When you are surrounded by strong but disciplined people, everyone, whether they like it or not, starts watching their words and actions. You get that healthy caution. But if there's no real power behind you, the boundaries blur and no one is held accountable for acting like a jerk. But wait, in his book, he says the path of least resistance robs us of faith and courage. What about those who have been sitting in a dead-end job for years and are just terrified to change anything? People have mortgages, kids. What about that risk? Listen, fearing risk is normal. Chasing a dream is terrifying. But Peterson says something crucial. You should be 10 times more afraid of staying exactly where you are for another 20 years if you're already miserable right now. Security is a myth. It doesn't exist. Your only real insurance is your ability to adapt and fight. You are literally paying with your life for every day spent in gloom. We love to say, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. But time is ruthless. If you hate your routine today and you do nothing, in 5 years you'll be twice as bitter, twice as miserable, and much older. Sounds depressing. It's sobering. It's hard to admit how much time we just flush down the toilet. Let's do the math. Peterson often asks students, how many hours a day do you waste on absolute nonsense? And notice, he doesn't define nonsense. They judge themselves. About 10% admit they waste 10 hours a day. But when the bar drops to 6 hours, 80% of the room raises their hands. Let's calculate. 6 hours of wasted time a day is 42 hours a week. A whole work week. Gone. What is your hour worth? For a young guy, it's priceless because efforts made at 20 pay dividends for the rest of your life. It's compound interest. But even if we value your hour at a modest $50, it means you're throwing away $2,000 a week. That's $100,000 a year. Over a 40-year career, that's $4 million. You're literally burning through a fortune without even realizing it.
Think about that. Just stop wasting your life by your own standards. Why is it so hard for us to admit that? Because realizing you've blown half your life is an unbearable pain. It's easier to close your eyes and say, I just don't have a plan. I don't control my day. Sometimes there's a deep resentment toward the whole world behind that. That is the shadow in the Jungian sense. The dark part of us that makes a person unreliable and bitter. Very few are willing to look into that abyss. You know, I just remembered a story about my friend who's a barber. During lockdown, I was able to work on my project. I actually had more time. No, he, a master of his craft, lost his job and had to go work as a night stalker at a supermarket. I asked him how he was doing. He said, listen, the work is fine. The guys are okay, but I feel physically sick because I've stopped feeling like a pro. There it is. Exactly. A human being needs to be a master of something. We often think happiness is peace and comfort. But peace is for infants when they're being swaddled. For an adult, the medicine for suffering isn't peace. It's the climb toward mastery, some kind of grand adventure. Dostoevsky once said that each of us is responsible for everyone and everything. Sounds like the talk of a madman, right? But there is deep truth in it. We carry an immense responsibility. Yes, sometimes it feels crushing, but you are not alone. You have to learn to delegate, to trust. Your duty is to do your best, but remember that the world is a team game. And what if the weight finally crushes you? That happens. Life is tragic. That's just a fact. And it's also poisoned by other people's malice and our own stupidity. But that's exactly why we need meaning. Without it, bitterness will just eat you alive. Tragedy multiplied by betrayal is a lethal mix, especially if you're the one to blame for it all. The only shield is a worthy cause. You need a reason to get out of bed on your absolute worst day. And what could be worthier than trying to be better than you were yesterday? In this responsibility for your own growth, that is where the deepest meaning is hidden. But these days, it's trendy to say that male strength and competence are almost like tyranny, toxic masculinity and all that. Yeah, and it really hits young guys hard. No, they need to know. They must be strong and competent. Peterson says, be dangerous. Why? Because it's the only alternative to weakness. And weakness gives birth to real evil. Look at the people who shoot up schools. They are deeply weak, pathetic people. Being formidable means
being ready for challenges. Life is a harsh bitch, and if you don't know how to fight back, she will crush you. This isn't about cruelty. There's a phrase in the Bible, "The meek shall inherit the earth." But in the original, that word is closer to the image of a war horse that is completely submissive to its rider. The point is to have a sword, to know how to use it, but to consciously keep it in its sheath. Become powerful first, and then become peaceful, in that order, not the other way around.
A weak person won't survive the hits of fate. They'll break and start taking it out on the whole world. So, man's nature isn't toxic, it's necessary. It's the foundation. Look at this city. Every building, every pipe in the ground, every power line out there in the rain and the storm. It's the result of men's labor, men doing impossible things. They often work to the point of exhaustion, literally burning themselves out so this world can just keep turning. And there is almost no gratitude for it these days. University theorists in their cozy offices love to lecture about social justice, taking their comfort for granted. They don't realize that behind them stands an army of workers who break their backs every day to make sure everything works. It's time we became a little more grateful. Men need to hear that their role is vital, that honest labor and protecting your family isn't toxicity. It's what holds civilization together. But isn't finding meaning a privilege for those who have money? When you have to pay the bills, you're not exactly thinking about higher callings. Listen, I'm not talking about happiness. Happiness is a bonus. Meaning is a moral duty, and it's a path through sacrifice. If your job is killing you, you can't just drop everything and walk into the sunset if you have a family behind you. That isn't a strategy, it's irresponsibility. But you are obligated to act smart. Start preparing the ground. Learn. Update your resume. Train your skills. It might take 2 or 3 years, but do it like an adult. Meaning is the only thing that will keep you from turning into a cynic. Responsibility starts with you, then it covers your family, and then the whole society. It's a heavy burden, but that's where greatness lies. It's an eternal process. Your old self dies and someone stronger is born. Weakness leads to suffering, and suffering leads to a thirst for revenge. Studying the tyrannies of the last century, I realized one thing. It all started with a small personal lie and a refusal to take responsibility. Those who hate their own existence eventually become executioners. That is a direct path into the abyss. I discussed this with David Goggins. I told him about my childhood, how I was bullied in school, how I was an outcast. I held on to that resentment for a long time. But recently I realized everything I value in myself now is a result of that hardening. My ability to work alone, my readiness to move to a different country and build everything from scratch, it grew out of that loneliness. Sure, I still look for approval because I didn't get enough of it as a kid. But without those trials, I wouldn't be me. I'm proud that I was able to melt that lead into gold. And now, I'm actually grateful for it. That's the key right there. The practice of gratitude isn't a cute habit. It's a way of seeing the world. Even in the deepest pit, finding something to say thank you for is a complex but vital work of the soul. It's like the commandment, love your enemies. Think of the story of Job. The man lost everything, children, money, health. His friends mocked him, calling him a sinner.
But he didn't renounce himself, and he didn't curse life. He said, "I lived by my conscience, and my suffering isn't a punishment. It's part of this tragic world." He kept his faith. His wife advised him, "Curse God and die." But he chose to be faithful to himself. That's the point. Preserve your inner light no matter what happens. If you answer the hits of fate with hatred, you will create another hell beneath your current one. The hell of revenge and bitterness. Things can be bad, but they will become catastrophic if you let suffering poison your soul.